All right, how are you guys doing out there today in Math Magic Land? That's right, this is Mr. Muscarella coming at you. And in this video, we're going to take a look at solving equations by factoring, example number 2. All right, so let's get excited about that, and let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got coming in here today. All right, so here we are taking a look at our factoring notes for solving trig equations. And again, that unit circle is going to be key to have down. I know in most courses, they're not going to let you actually have that there as a reference. So you'll need to make sure you have that organized. Now, in example 1, one of the things just kind of review the constant term, linear term, quadratic term. You always want the quadratic term to be positive as you go through and do that, because that's just going to make your life way easier when it comes to factoring. So if we take a look at this guy right here, this particular example 2 here, we see that the quadratic term, that negative 2 cosine squared, so I'm going to highlight that in yellow, that part is negative. So, but all the terms are on the same side. So what we're going to do is multiply through by negative 1. And at the same time, we're also going to write it in standard form. So when we do that, we'll end up with 2 cosine squared theta. And then negative 1 times negative 3 cos theta is going to give us positive 3 cosine theta. And then negative 1 times negative 1, of course, will give us positive 1. So this is the same equation just being multiplied through by negative 1. And we're going to go ahead and set that equal to 0. From here, again, now we're just going to have a very straightforward factoring problem because both of these terms right here, my linear term, positive. So that's pretty nice. That's pretty straightforward because that means when I factor, I've only got 2 options for factoring, right? And when you do these, that 2 cos squared is just going to break down into 2 cosine theta and cosine theta. So that's the only way that can break down. But because of the signs, S-I-G-N, there's only one possibility, and that means both have to be positive. Now, since my linear or my quadratic term is 2 cosine squared, my linear term is 3 cosine theta. What I want to look at then is my constant, and that constant is 1. There's only one way to factor 1, where both of them are positive, and that's 1 and 1. So 1, 1, and done, right? So we've got that. Now from here, again, take your time, write down each factor, and set it equal to 0. And I'm going to go ahead and solve this first factor. So that's going to give us 2 cosine theta plus 1 equals 0. And then we're going to do 2 steps at once here because you guys are at that level. So cosine theta, if we move the 1 over, we will be at negative 1. And dividing by 2 gives us the product, or the quotient, cosine theta equals negative 1/2. All right, so that is for my very first factor. So that's going to be this value. Now, where is cosine negative 1/2? Again, cosine is my x-coordinate. So I want my x-coordinates to be negative 1/2. And they're going to occur over here at 2 pi over 3 and 120 degrees. And then also down at 4 pi over 3 and 240 degrees. So again, I want to make sure I write those in both degrees and radians. So theta is going to be equal to both 120 degrees and 240 degrees. And then theta is also going to be equal to 2 pi's over 3 and 4 pi's over 3. So those are both my answers in degrees and radians for the very first factor of 2 cos theta plus 1. Now for my other factor, right, I've got cosine theta plus 1. So here, this one, all right, cosine theta plus 1 equals 0. So then you'll get cosine of theta equals negative 1. Cosine, again, that's my x-coordinate. There's only one spot where cosine is negative 1, and that's here on our x-axis at pi and 180 degrees. So theta would be equal to 180 degrees, and theta would be equal to pi. And that's it. That's all you got to do. So there's example 2 for you, and then we've got 2 other examples, 3 and 4, for you to go ahead and check out. And again, make sure that your work is nice, it's neat, it's organized. Again, if this were a quiz, you'd get 1 point for getting it set equal to 0, another point for setting your factors, factoring this correctly. Then your other point would come from your answers, either 1 point for each one or possibly 2 points depending on what we've got going on. But that's generally how that's going to be graded. You want to get your factoring right. And of course, if all of your work, you've got to make sure that you show all of your work in here for that. Because if you just all of a sudden jump right down to theta equals this value and this value, like, yeah, no, that's no credit. No points for you. So be sure that you show all of the steps in there and you'll be good to go. All right, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you back for examples 3 and 4 in the next one. Peace out.